This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
I'm Bob Joseph. This is Binghamton Now for Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024. You may participate by calling 607-772-1290. Go ahead, make our show. Give us a call now on Binghamton Now. WNBF. Right to the phones we go with instant satisfaction. John from Binghamton, you're on the air.
Hey, I'm Breaking Bad today. People think that I'm a skeptic, that I'm negative, but I have a funny way of forecasting possibilities on the Fugazi local government that we have here and their schemes. Avelo Airlines is gone August 18th. This is after the county paid $660,000 hard-earned tax dollars to them. Great news on the day that we're going to have, or on the day before we're going to have this air show, isn't it?
Well, yeah, we learned that on Tuesday that Avelo has dropped BGM from its next schedule. So it was I can't say shocking. I'll just say it's the aviation industry, and the aviation industry will do whatever it wants to do when it comes to serving, whether it's small markets or large markets. The aviation industry is always going to adjust its schedule, and my impression about any industry now is it's not whether you can make a profit, it's can you make a bigger profit by doing something else. You know, the days of just settling for meager profits, those days are over. And now, as all companies sort of go from one quarter to the next, it's not did we do well in the first and second quarters, it's how can we do even better in the third and fourth quarters.
Yeah, but this wasn't a legitimate deal. This wasn't them selecting Broome County. This was a pay-to-play, pay-to-fly deal. This was a charter airline that, as long as Broome County was going to underwrite them to the tune of $660,000, the planes would go. When that reached its maximum level, that's the end, and on to the next.
Is there a form of transportation in the U.S. today that is not subsidized by government?
Yeah, I think some of the bus companies.
No. Last I knew, bus companies were still receiving subsidies. Now, I don't know if there are currently subsidies for bus companies to provide service to upstate New York cities. There used to be. And I, at the moment, can't think of any mode of transportation in the United States over the last several decades that hasn't been subsidized.
Well, this was a direct payment from county government to the airline.
Well, whether it's local, state, or federal government, every form of transportation that I can think of winds up getting subsidized. And some, look, traditionally, aviation in the United States has received a disproportionate amount of subsidies. Look at the billions of dollars that are dumped on airports across this country every year, and I think we've established one of the reasons the federal government spends so much money every year for improvements and maintenance of aviation facilities is because members of Congress use that system to get to and from their districts, between D.C. and their home districts almost every weekend when Congress is in session. So the interstate highway system in the past, intercity buses, I don't know at this point. The passenger rail system, such as it is in this country now, everything is subsidized by some level of government, sometimes multiple levels.
Well, is there anybody, any of these economic development types, these politicians, have they weighed in on this because they were there talking it up when it started?
Just happened. It was just announced I believe it just became public Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
So, as they say, stay tuned. But again, if you can find any transportation, any mode of transportation, except for horse and buggy in the United States that's not being subsidized, let me know. It's all being subsidized. And sometimes, for example, I still believe that Binghamton deserves to have passenger rail service to New York City. Well, obviously, that's not going to happen in my lifetime. I'm smart enough to know it won't happen, no matter how many times Charles Schumer runs it up the flagpole to see if he can dupe us again. You know, well, we're going to study it, blah, blah, and woof, woof. It's not happening because there's not enough political will in the federal government to get passenger rail moving the way it used to. But there's plenty of money in the federal government for the interstate highway system and plenty of money in the federal government for our aviation system. It's all choices. Now, and again, as far as what is the current state with intercity buses, I really don't know. But it used to be, I believe New York State used to subsidize bus companies, say Greyhound or Trailways or Shortline, to provide bus service to some of the smaller burgs upstate. So you can say that this didn't work. Well, obviously, apparently it didn't work if they're going to discontinue service to Florida from BGM.
Well, I mean, the politicians talk about catalysts and jump starts and all this stuff, and how well the area is doing, and it's not the case when you get into a little bit of the underbelly. People, you can see that these things are. I look at. It may be a coincidence, but we don't have any opposition for the county executive. But isn't it amazing how all these projects, including some of these apartment projects, are now unraveling? Boscov's is stalling out on that lease. Those improvements to Boscov's aren't even going to begin until 2026, if they do. So I think, And I'm going to give you a prediction. If Endicott doesn't knuckle under, and even if they do, and give away their golf course to the village of Endicott, what's going to happen is that tournament is going to be moved to Pittsburgh. But the people that run the tournament now are going to be producing concerts at Enjoy. And I'll tell you something. Right now, from an outfit like Live Nation, if they wanted to, if Nick Burlingame and the Board of Trustees wanted to produce revenue, they would get millions of dollars for a deal with Live Nation, just on the concerts.
Well, maybe they'll look into it. I don't know what they're going to do as far as what happens next with the airport. Who knows? I think the bottom line is look at the overall industry. Commercial aviation has changed so much over the last few decades. It's not the way it was 50 years ago. It's crazy, but it is what it is. Every market, unless you're running the biggest airport, if you're running JFK or LAX, of course, those hubs, international airports, will continue to be served as they have been. But even that, look at the way things are running at the biggest airports. 9:20, you're listening to News Radio, WNBF, WNBF.com. What are your thoughts? Also, what are your thoughts now? I'm hesitant to bring it up, but if I don't talk about it, who will? What are your thoughts about the Democratic presidential nominee? Who would you suggest? This is the time for suggestions. Who knows? Maybe people with the Democratic Party are tuning in to random radio talk shows across America as they look for someone to be on top of the ticket. The clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. Decisions must be made rapidly. Or the Democrats could, as they say, stay the course and let the votes fall where they may. 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. I'm Bob Joseph. You're listening to Binghamton Now. Welcome to the Wednesday edition, and we look forward to talking with folks. If you have things to say, a disturbing story about corruption, government corruption, hitting close to home. The village of Candormere was arrested for allegedly stealing from the village. We don't know whether Mayor Eric Halstead lied. I don't know. I attempted to speak with Eric Halstead on Tuesday afternoon, and he did not wish to speak at that time. State Controller Thomas DiNapoli, along with the state police, announced the arrest of Mayor Halstead for stealing from the Village of Candor General Fund. According to a news release from the Controller's office, Mayor Halstead was entrusted by his community to serve their interests, but instead allegedly treated the village's money as his own. It's according to a statement that was put out by Thomas DiNapoli. Charges are serious: felony grand larceny and felony corrupting the government. So that's where it stands. Again, I tried to contact Mayor Halstead, and as of Tuesday afternoon, he did not wish to speak. 926, good morning, WNBF. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Good Wednesday morning to you. It's Chris Binghamton.
Yeah, what's up?
I would like to thank John for that information about our $600,000 plus wasted on given pretty much to a airplane company that failed to service us, and could you believe it? No repercussions for anybody. None. Nobody's fired.
So what should be done? What should be done? I mean, there are all sorts of initiatives that have happened in Broome County and in local governments over the last several decades where money was spent and things didn't go the way they were expected to go. So you're saying every time that a project happens and it doesn't go the way it's expected, somebody needs to be fired?
No, I mean, obviously their position and their authority needs to be challenged at a minimum.
Okay, so you're challenging it. What now?
Yeah, and then could you imagine that anything that seems to be our government touches with our tax dollars for investment purposes to make our lives better seem to always repetitively fail us as a community, period. And it's terrible. There is no checks and balances. But if you failed me as a business owner over and over again, I am going to fire you.
And the people have the right to fire elected officials every 2 years or every 4 years or every 6 years. Elected officials who make decisions are held accountable that way, except for the president, who now is above the law.
We love the ability to vote them in and vote them out.
Right. So that's the way it is. This is not, I don't care whether you're talking about Broome County or the city of Binghamton. or the Village of Candor, we don't have a system where we have snap elections, so every time something doesn't go right, we can instantly have a referendum to see if people need to be fired. At least in this country, unlike some countries, we have a schedule of elections. So you can always look forward to the next election and then deciding whether people have, on the whole, done enough to earn your vote to stay, or whether it's time for someone else.
That is true. That is true, Bob. You know, I mean, it's just sometimes there's just, you know, nobody calls it out. Just look at our mainstream media that literally told us that Joe Biden was so cognitive. He was doing handstands in the Oval Office.
Nobody on the mainstream media said he was doing handstands in the Oval Office. Document that. Document that. Which mainstream media outlet said Biden was doing handstands in the Oval Office?
It wouldn't be. It would be the pundits that would be on like CBS.
No, name a name. Name a name, because I want to find the tape. There'd better be a tape of someone in mainstream media, CBS, NBC, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, or Fox News, that said that they said he was doing handstands in the Oval Office. Cite the person and when it happened so I can look it up.
Where I seen it was on Fox News. But I mean,
when? Fox News then was lying. There's nobody who said with a straight face on Fox News that Joe Biden was doing handstands in the Oval Office.
No, it wasn't Friday that he was doing handstands. No, but they were.
All right. Well, if you're going to just exaggerate, you know, I'm as disappointed with the way things were handled as far as concealing the guy's real condition. But now we know. Now we know, and now the Democrats have the opportunity to do something about it.
I mean, it's tough to like bring in somebody like Newsom or somebody like that, and I mean, I'm not sure where the Democratic Party goes in itself.
Well, maybe they can find somebody good. Maybe they have enough time. Maybe they don't. And if people love the former guy, they should be thankful. They should be thankful to the mainstream media. If that's your take, you should be thanking the mainstream media for clearing the way for the former guy to get public housing for another 4 years. It's 9:31. I'm Bob Joseph, WNBF. More calls coming up on this Wednesday morning. We're joined now by Nathan Hanslick with some information about a special event that will be taking place soon in Endwell. Good morning, Nathan.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Welcome to Binghamton Now.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us what will be happening at the Church of the Holy Family on Phyllis Street in Endwell next week.
Sure, yes. Next weekend, Friday, July 12th, Saturday, July 13th, and then Sunday, July 14th, we have our annual bazaar. On Friday night, July 12th, is the regular bazaar, which we have all the foods that we have: calamari, salad, steamed clams, pizza, pizza free, grilled pizza, kibasi, strawberry shortcake, city chicken, and a lot more. The same food will be served on Saturday, July 13th. And on Sunday, July 14th, noon until sold out, we have the chicken barbecue by the Lions Club. Again, on Friday night, it's going to go from 5 to 10 with entertainment at 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock p.m. by the UUU Band. And on Saturday, from 5 to 10, starting at 6 o'clock, will be the Yada Yadas. And the entertainment for Sunday for the chicken barbecue will be the Bass and Brown Band. There's a lot to do. There's food, drinks, bingo, children's games, white elephant, basket raffles, games of chance. So there's something to do for all. I encourage everyone to come out. We have a free shuttle service from Delta Engineering, which is located at 860 Hooper Road, that runs. We have a handicap parking lot that's blocked off right by the tents up in the church parking lot. So there's a lot to do here. New this year, we are introducing Father Clarence's Endwell Green. So that's new this year. That's going to be coming on. And there's just a lot to do. It brings the community together, and we're located at 3600 Phyllis Street in Endwell, New York.
And for people who haven't been there before, explain how to get there. I mean, it's not that difficult, and
Sure.
obviously most people have their phones anyway, so they could figure it out, but it's not far from Highland Park.
No, it's not, and it's right off of Hooper Road as well, too. You take if you come up it's right by Best Bagels, and you take a left on Smith, and then you take that next right, it'll take you right to the church there. So it's very easy to get to, and same off of Taft Ave. If you take a right on Alexander and follow that straight down, it'll bring you right to Phyllis Street as well.
What day typically is the busiest day?
This year we're expecting Friday night to be the busiest day. The UUU band is a big band that we're bringing this year. They play actually at the Dick's Open After Concert, so we're getting ready to have the big day for that. So Friday night's normally the biggest day, but Saturday is just as busy as well. So this is our second year back after COVID, so we're prepared and we're ready to bring the community back together. And we're just looking forward to a good time together, and there's a lot to do, and we're offering, like, when you get here, there's different tents set up, and there's the large tent, too, so there's a ticket booth. So we'll accept cash or credit card at the ticket booth, and then everything else will be tickets with the different booths throughout the tent. So it's a good time, and I encourage everyone to stop by just to get to see everyone and have fun with music and entertainment.
And that is the Bazaar at the Church of the Holy Family in Endwell, which will be running July 12th, 13th, and the 14th. Nathan Hanslick, thank you for joining us on WNBF. Hope you enjoy your holiday, and hope you have a great time at the Bazaar next week.
Thank you. Hope to see everyone.
Thank you. It's 9:39. You're listening to Binghamton Now, serving the community on WNBF, 92.1 FM, 1290 AM. And you can always stay connected using the free WNBF app.
News Radio 1290 WNBF.
It's Wednesday morning, July 3rd. One would have hoped after the debacle in Atlanta last Thursday night, one might have hoped, I should say, that the people running things would understand why it was so critical to quickly repair the damage. And so far, a little serious effort appears to be done to repair the damage done. Now, you can have the White House press secretary come out there attempting to undo the damage. She can't do it. I can't do it. Dr. Jill can't do it. Hunter can't do it. No one can do it. No one can do it but the big guy. And the fact that he has not attempted to fix what happened last Thursday night, I think that speaks volumes. Right? It speaks volumes. The bottom line is, on Thursday morning, or Thursday afternoon, after he had a good night's rest and got over the immediate shock of doing so poorly, then he should have had a pop-up press conference. Just announce. Give reporters 5 minutes notice or 10 minutes notice. We're going to do a news conference. Get yourself into the place where we do news conferences. Get out all your best questions, because the president is going to prove once and for all that the Thursday night debate debacle was just a bad outing. He should have done it. Should have, if he could have, and he would have.
We're not taking away from what you all saw or what the American people saw. We understand it was a bad night. It is not uncommon for incumbents to have a bad night on their first debate.
Yeah, that's true. It happens often. Incumbents often have a bad night on their first debate. No incumbent has ever had a night quite like that. So I'm not I'm not blaming the White House press secretary. Unfortunately, she has the job that is in some ways very similar to the job that the person had when they used to have the circus walk go through town, because somebody had to clean up after the elephant.
We are acknowledging what people are seeing, but we do believe this was in this instance, it was a bad night.
It was a bad night. It was an atrocious night. It was a night we cannot unsee.
He is someone who knows how to get back up once you've been knocked down. That is something that he understands very, very well. And I think, and we believe, that's something that many of Americans across the country understand as well.
I think many Americans, millions, tens of millions of Americans, are sympathetic to Joe Biden. I'm not sure how many Americans are sympathetic to Dr. Jill or to Hunter or to other members of the Biden family or the inner circle, whoever's running things. Obviously, they need someone to be running things at the White House, unless they replace the presidential duties. Now it's being handled by AI, and they haven't told us that either. Maybe that's why things are running so smoothly. Maybe they switched over to AI 6 months ago or 12 months ago. Now, the White House press secretary, she is loyal. She's doing her job. All White House press secretaries have a tough job, because people will be mean to them or say bad things about them no matter what they do. And keeping in mind, she, like all of her predecessors, is just doing what she's being told to do. In this case, probably not by Joe Biden, because I don't think he's in any shape to tell her what to do. But somebody, whoever it is who's running operations, Kamala Harris or even Dr. Jill Biden, they're telling the press secretary what to do and what to say. So my heart goes out to her. I think she has one of the toughest jobs in the world. It's 9:45 at WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
This is Matt from Binghamton. How you doing today, Bob?
Good. How are you?
Bob, based on what you just said right now, you have no credence to be. I'm going to vote for you being off the air. You just got done saying that on Thursday morning or afternoon, last week, they should have gotten together and had this press conference. When did the debate take place, Bob?
All right. If that's the best you can do.
Well,
no. Continue. Yes. By the way, listen to how the program has gone over the last 36 minutes, and I will put my performance overall in the last 36 minutes with his performance in the first 36 minutes of last week's debate. So if that's the best you can do, hey, Matt, if that's the best you can do, that shows you, or shows the listeners anyway, that you don't have a whole lot of way to defend Joe Biden. Focus on Joe Biden. He's the one. I'm running a 2-bit radio show in Binghamton, New York.
Right, that's right. It is a 2-bit radio show. Here's the deal. You will not talk about Donald Trump. You will not talk about what he did that night. You're only talking about Joe Biden. These things take time to sort out. He has agreed to go on Stephanopoulos. Next on.
Yes, and by the way, George Stephanopoulos is a former employee of the Clinton White House. So if Joe Biden wants to prove anything, if Joe Biden wants to prove that he's fit to be president, he ought to do an interview with Sean Hannity.
Oh, yeah, right. Who would do the guy Sean Hannity, told 58 lies, was proven to lie about Smirnoff, the guy that's the smoking gun against the Biden family, and never once once made an apology for doing 58 bits about Smirnoff, who turned out to be an indicted, potential felon. George Stephanopoulos will be a live interview, and you'll be able to see what Joe Biden is all about. Look, I've already said, I'm not arguing with you. This was the most atrocious performance ever in a debate that I've ever seen. But you don't throw away. He started his career, got elected before he was even old enough to be in the Senate. You don't throw somebody over without giving him a chance to think it through, his advisors to think it through, and come up with this choice. You want them to go the only reason I brought up the thing about Thursday, you said they should have met Thursday and had this press conference, is it shows that people can have a really bad moment.
That wasn't a really bad moment. It was mixing up one day, and the listeners, I think, except for you, knew exactly what I meant. So, yes, I said Thursday morning instead of Friday morning. Again, I will put up my performance on this program today against his performance last Thursday night on the CNN News Channel, and the basic point I made still stands. If he was in charge, he should have been out there the next morning, or at least early Friday afternoon, taking questions from all White House reporters and doing live interviews on every 6:30 newscast. He was not capable of doing it. And we have seen in his limited public appearances, as far as I know, the only things that he has actually done since last Thursday night's debate debacle are things that have been scripted, things where he's reading from a teleprompter.
So most presidents, most of the things they do are scripted. And the thing that gets me is, well, okay, so here's an example of, so you want this guy who's the biggest liar in the history of our republic, Donald Trump, who has a website that, and we know that he told 30 to 50 lies, depending how you calculate them, on during the debate. And you're not challenging him on any of those lies. And you're making it like this is a choice right now between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And you're either,
and it's not a good choice. It's a terrible choice for the American people. And Democrats and Republicans would do well, listen carefully, Democrats and Republicans would do well to find better nominees. Just because we've said for months that one person is the presumptive Republican nominee or one person is the presumptive Democratic nominee, it's not locked in yet. Both parties have a chance to save themselves.
Bob, let's be real.
I know. I understand the reality, Matthew. You don't have to teach me about reality. I understand that the Republicans, under no circumstances, well, let me correct that. The Republicans, based on all the current circumstances, are going to go all in with Donald Trump. However, there still is room for some surprise, some sort of July or early August surprise that could happen before the Republican convention in Milwaukee. So don't rule it out. I'm not predicting it. I'm saying we know. We saw what happened last Thursday night, and so we know surprises can still happen, and Republicans could find themselves in a heck of a fix, too, in the lead up to their convention.
So when you watch the State of the Union for the last 2 years, were there number of times when he wasn't on teleprompter, when all the Marjorie Taylor Greene and everybody was yelling at him, when he put them in their place and did it? For whatever reason, after traveling the world for several couple weeks and doing all sorts of diplomacy, dealing with the Middle East crisis, all these things, an 81-year-old man was tired. Now, look, it was everybody watching that. It was a horrible thing, but you have taken the position that there's no way that he can redeem himself. And
I don't take that position. Okay, I'll watch the interview with George Stephanopoulos. If he accords himself well in that interview, I will be the first to say it. If he's not mumbling and bumbling and fumbling, even he said, I believe yesterday, that he fell asleep during the debate. Well, if that's what happened, you're not supposed to fall asleep during the debate. Fall asleep afterwards.
well, if I was listening to Donald Trump tell lies, I would be so exasperated that I might want to fall asleep and say, why did I even agree to this? The real deal is, Joe Biden's advisors probably shouldn't have agreed to that debate if they thought it all through, because they said they weren't going to fact check. And if you don't fact check, if the moderators don't fact check, then the person in that room with Donald Trump would have to spend their whole time fact checking and not talking about the issues that face the American public. That's where we're at. We have a president who's done an amazing job, brought the economy back, created 6.2 million new jobs, not bounce back jobs, above the bounce back jobs. The CHIPS Act, he stood in Ohio where Donald Trump promised to bring in this amazing factory. Didn't never happen, and now he's bringing in Microsoft to do what Donald Trump couldn't do. We have all the infrastructures being rebuilt in our country because of this. People are we have a government that actually, and it's even with all the naysayers, addressing climate change, which is one of the existential crises in our country. And then you want to say, look, if the Democrats decide on another candidate, I'm not going to, I will be behind it completely. But you're throwing out Joe Biden, who's done an incredible job by everybody's standards.
Don't say I'm throwing him out. He threw himself out. I didn't do it. The bottom line is he's responsible, and I'm fed up with the Team Biden blaming advisors and coming up with a multitude of excuses. The buck stops with the President of the United States. He did it. He broke it. He has an opportunity to fix it. He still, listen to me carefully, Matthew, he still has a chance to redeem himself. I'm not ruling it out, but he'd better start moving fast because it doesn't look good at the moment.
I agree with you.
And by the way, he is not going to redeem himself by a single good interview with Stephanopoulos. That could be the start of the road to redemption. I'm not ruling it out, but it's going to take a lot of work, and he's going to have to do it quickly to erase part of the damage, or at least mitigate the damage that was caused last Thursday night.
Here's what I would ask you to do. Spend half an hour today or Monday or whenever you're back, or Friday, I think you said you're back. Of course, nobody will be listening because it's July 4th. Not many people, but weekend. But spend as much time breaking down all the lies that Donald Trump told. Because
I may do that if, in the meantime, Biden does something that alleviates our urgent concern. That's the bottom line. He's got to do something. I don't know what, between now and Friday's program, to prove that he's even fit to be president at the moment. That is the bottom line. I'm Bob Joseph. It's Wednesday morning. You're listening to Binghamton Now on WNBF. We welcome to the program Broome County Executive Jason Garner. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. How you doing?
I am well. And we have a lot to talk about. Let's get started. First, Avelo Airlines made a big, and in the view of some people, a surprising announcement on Tuesday, about its future at Greater Binghamton Airport. And sadly, BGM is not going to be on the schedule for much longer. What happened?
Well, they reached out to us on Friday, and at that point, we knew definitely there was going to be another pause. If you remember, they paused service in April. On Friday, we knew that there was at least going to be another pause in their December schedule that was going to be public on Monday. And then we, came to find out that they were actually just they were going to pull out of the market. So they have done this. They cut most of their routes out of the Orlando market. There were 6 regions that they pulled out of, and Binghamton was one of them. And it was, obviously it is disappointing, right? Because I think it was the first time in 20 years that we had gotten brand new air service. Everybody really liked Avello. Everybody really liked the prices that they had for the market. And our planes were really running pretty full. Just so people know, a load factor is what percentage of the plane do you fill up on your flights. And we did, across the board, the whole time they were here, 76%. So well over 3/4 of those flights were filled up. Some months we were in the 90% during the during the holiday seasons where people fly out quite a bit. So I think that we showed that we can fill up the planes. I mean, having 76% load factors shows that, we really did a good job of putting those people in the seats. What Avello told us was that the price to fly into Orlando was incredibly expensive for them to maintain that base there with all the planes. They've also had issues buying more planes, which also factored into it. They put out a number of orders to buy planes, and they're way behind getting those plane orders fulfilled. And they don't see that changing anytime soon. So there's still major supply issues with getting planes. That played a factor in as well. So, just I think what a lot of people are wondering is, what do we do going forward? Well, we know that route can be successful. So, immediately as soon as we heard that they were pulling out, Mark Hefner, our airport commissioner, started talking to similar airlines about that exact same route. I mean, we're always talking to airlines. We're always trying to bring more service here and get that conversation going. But obviously, while we, had Avello, we weren't talking to other airlines about going to Orlando because we already had a route. But that conversation obviously changed this week, and our director's already been in touch with similar airlines that offer discount travel to Orlando, along with having conversations about other routes as well.
How much did this all cost the county? I mean, clearly, hundreds of thousands of dollars was spent for the entire, I'll call it an experiment. It's an experiment that we learned Tuesday afternoon, learned this experiment was unsuccessful, but it was costly. How much did the county spend with the Avello experience?
So we had allocated just about $1 million in what we call minimum revenue guarantees. And that was spent. So at least, that much money. That's probably the large percentage of it. And it's one of those things that's required. So if there's, if you're going to get new service or anything like that, especially if you're a smaller regional airport like Binghamton, you've got to offer minimum revenue guarantees. And, our hope was that the service would last, longer than it did. But in this industry, you never know. And sometimes you have to take chances. I mean, if we were just to sit there and say we're not going to offer minimum revenue guarantees, we might as well just close down the airport. And I don't want to do that. So it's like one of those things where if you don't take any swings any of the time, you're not going to miss, but you certainly aren't going to get anything either. You're not going to get any hits, and that's we'll try and I do it again too. And if other airlines, are interested and they need minimum revenue guarantees, that's something that we're going to have to put on the table as well.
So you're saying that you would be prepared to allocate $1 million or maybe more to another airline to provide some sort of service that you believe would be useful at Greater Binghamton Airport, despite what happened with Velo?
Yes, because if we don't do that, then we're not going to get any more airlines to come in. So the airlines look at obviously look at a number of things, right? But the most important thing they look at is, can we fill up the plane? I think we did a really good job of filling up the plane. I think the community really rallied behind the service and used it. Second thing they're going to ask is about minimum revenue guarantees. That's the second thing they'll ask. The third thing they'll look at is the quality of the airport, the experience of flying in and out. And obviously with the upgrades we're making to the airport, we've got that covered. But the first two things they think about is how many people can they put in the seats, and what are the minimum revenue guarantees. And if we were to just say we're not ever going to offer minimum revenue guarantees, then you're not going to get any more new service. So that's kind of So I mean, obviously we have to look, and we have to be careful with taxpayer dollars, and we have. We certainly can't pull that off the table, or there won't be anything else that is happening either, right? I mean, that's just, we'll never get any more service if we pull that off the table.
So the first Velo flight out of Binghamton Airport, I believe, was November 16th, 2022. Do you know approximately how many people took advantage of the Binghamton to Orlando service during the time that it's existed?
Yes. I think probably close to 20,000 people flew out.
Is that about what county officials had expected or hoped going into this, or did it turn out? You mentioned load factor, and
right.
Perhaps the planes were quite full, as you said, but had the county previously and in its discussions with Velo before the service was started in the fall of 2022, had Velo indicated it wanted numbers even higher than that?
I don't think Velo ever said, these are the numbers that you need to get. I think what Velo realized and what we understood was that when you start a new service anywhere, right, and this is where the minimum revenue guarantees come in, you have to do marketing. I mean, you have to get the word out. It takes a while for people to understand and get the word out that, Greater Binghamton Airport has direct service to Orlando. So if you've been used to going to Syracuse, or you've been, Scranton or Elmira, now we have the service as well. Look at us too. And we realized that was going to take some time. Certainly the first few months of the service, your load factors are going to be lower because you just started the service out, right? But as time went on, you would be able to grow the service to something that could be profitable. And I think what Velo found out was that during, and this is the same with these other 5 or 6 other locations that they were flying out of, there were months that were really great, and there were months that were so-so. And but I think at the end of the day, in total, 76% load factor is a really good percentage. I mean, that's a really good percentage. And so we were surprised when they made the announcement, because I mean that's a for having like a year and a half of service, averaging 76% people in a plane is pretty good. Now, I will say a couple other things, and this is not something that Avello told us. This is just something that we're speculating, right? So I think when Avello paused in April, I think that there was kind of an interesting thing that happened there because for people who know and follow air travel, obviously we have competitors in the market, and one of our competitors is Scran, and they just added service in April that literally just started in April to Orlando at the same time Avello paused. And again, it's one of those things that happens in the industry. Did people start to, did that, pause allow, cause people to just start to more gravitate towards that new service? Of course, anytime somebody starts a new service, you see there's deep discounts that are offered to get people into that service and using it the first few months that it's being offered. So I just don't think that was in maybe hindsight's 2020 on this, but I don't think it was a great idea with 2020 hindsight with Avello pausing at the very same time that Scran is adding the exact same route there.
Do you think Avello throughout the entire process has been completely honest with Broome County? Do you have a sense that perhaps Avello held back some of what its intentions were, whether it was earlier this year or even previously, that Broome County might not be on the schedule for much longer?
I don't think they've been dishonest with Broome County. I just, I think that the way this started off was tough. So if you remember, Avello wanted to do two routes. They wanted to go to Orlando, which they did, and they also wanted to go to Fort Myers. And if people remember, just about the time that we were, the tickets were already being sold to Fort Myers, there was a massive hurricane that came in there and really wrecked that airport, and really that was really the reason why the Fort Myers route never materialized. I will tell you that the ticket sales for Fort Myers in the short time that it was operating were better than the Orlando ticket sales. So I think the Fort Myers route would have been an even more profitable route, and had the Fort Myers route been going, I think it would have made up for any losses that the Orlando route sustained. Unfortunately, Fort Myers, because of the hurricane, never materialized. And still to this day, I have people come up to me and they're like, "When is that Fort Myers flight going to return?" I'm like, it's not returning, at least not through Avello. But there was a lot of interest in that flight, actually even more than the Orlando flight was. So I think it's just unfortunate the way it started, that due to a hurricane, which is obviously nothing that Avello or Broome County can control, that kind of took us out of one of our routes that was even more, had more interest than the Orlando one had.
So when you learned what Avello was going to announce publicly this week, were you angry?
I don't know if angry was the term. I was disappointed, right? I mean, listen, we are doing everything we can to provide more service up at the airport. I mean, the county, we have 40 different departments, and we certainly we want success, right? Like I want, I love 10 flights a day, 12 flights a day or whatever, right, to be running out of the greater Binghamton airport. And, was I angry? Maybe a little bit angry, but I think my what my real emotion was just disappointment. And then, okay, like, how do we, what did we learn from this, and how can we take the lessons from Avello and apply them to attracting new service? And I've always believed that when one door closes, another door opens, and we go on from there. So I certainly don't believe, I don't subscribe to just like walking around and moping around all day because something didn't work out right for our community. We're going to learn what happened with Avello, and we're going to, just the same way we went after Avello, we're going to go after other airlines that offer service to Orlando, because we know that that's something that can work here, and try to get more service. I mean, Mark Kiefner is a ball of energy. He's always running around, working really hard. He's had a really busy year. Certainly the last year and a half, getting that new service to Avello, building doing a big airport renovation. And, literally after we heard that Avello was closing the door on Binghamton, he's on the phone with other carriers that offer service to Orlando, trying to get more service. So, we, like I said, I guess that's what my emotion was a little anger, disappointment, but resolve that we need to, let's do everything we can to get more service to Orlando and other places.
One final note, if the numbers are right, just doing a quick bit of calculation here, if the county allocated about $1 million and ultimately may have spent some more in the overall Avello deal, and approximately 20,000 people took advantage of the flight since November 2022, works out to subsidizing each flight to the tune of approximately $50.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, listen, the whole idea of minimum revenue guarantees is to get you through that first year or so, and hopefully, your service will stay there for a number of years. And unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. But I don't think that's cause for us to just be like, okay, we're not going to do anything anymore. There's a lot of times in life, and you can apply this to anything in life, right? Sometimes things don't work out for us, but it doesn't mean we give up. We're going to redouble our efforts and continue to try to attract and get new service to the airport.
Broome County Executive Jason Garner is our guest on this Wednesday morning. It's live and local, Binghamton Now. Coming up, we'll talk about the Greater Binghamton Air Show, which is taking place Saturday and Sunday at the airport. I'm Bob Joseph. This is News Radio, WNBF 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. Speaking with Broome County Executive Jason Garner at 10:32. It's live and local. The air show is coming up on Saturday and Sunday. And I know we spoke with Mark Kiefner about the final preparations. Certainly he's been busy for months, and of course he's going to be busy over the next few days. I guess maybe sometime around 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. on Sunday he might be able to exhale.
Well, I think a lot of people are going to be busy, and certainly Mark has been orchestrating this whole air show, but there's just a lot of support staff that are involved in working on the air show. I mean, we're expecting, thousands of people to come into this area. I mean, maybe well over 10,000 people will come in, and I think they're still selling tickets. I think some people are waiting to see what the weather looks like. It looks like it's a little iffy in the morning, maybe on Saturday. Hopefully it'll clear up, and then they can fly everything Saturday, Sunday, or Sunday's looking like a really nice day. But it looks like we're going to have decent weather, so I think people sometimes hold off on buying tickets until they're assured that they're going to get a nice weather day. But nevertheless, we're expecting a ton of people to be up there. So, whether it's working with the pilots or working with the parking and getting people to where they need to be, it's a really big operation, and it's one of our big signature events that we have. We typically have it every couple of years, but I'm going to be really excited to see. Obviously, the Blue Angels in the F-18s are going to be the headliners, but there's a number of different planes that are going to be out there. And besides the Blue Angels, like personally for me, I'm actually interested in seeing the F-35 Lightning demonstration. The Air Force's most modern plane. I think they're doing like a vertical takeoff, so that'll be really interesting to watch. But I think it's going to be really great. It's a great family-friendly event. A lot of great food. I think that'll be up there as well. So if you haven't bought your ticket, I think they are still selling tickets as we talk. So I don't know how long they'll be doing that. I think at some point they close it before the show starts. So I would just encourage everybody to get their tickets if they haven't gotten them yet.
How are things going with the renovation project at the airport? It's been several weeks since I was up there. I did get a pretty comprehensive tour of the airport with Mark Kiefner last time I was up there, and so much was going on both sides. On the main side as you approach the terminal, and on the other side and inside, it was remarkable to see what had happened up to that point. What's the latest with the renovations?
Renovation work is going really well, and I don't have the actual end date for the final renovation, like the final completion of it. My understanding the last time I talked to Mark and my public works commissioner is that everything was everything was being completed on time. People were really happy with the way the project was progressing, also on budget, which is good. And there's been no delays or anything like that. But it's really again, that we've got a lot of work going on in other areas throughout the county, but that's one of our largest projects, and I think the construction phase goes into next year as well. But everything, knock on wood today, everything is on budget and on time. So hopefully that will continue through the end of the construction.
It's 10:37. We're speaking with the Broome County Executive Jason Garner. Not far from the airport is a county facility we don't talk much about, but it's very important. It's the landfill, and there has been quite a bit of work going on at the landfill.
Yep. There's I told you there's going to be a lot of work going on this year. We're completing a final cell at the airport. We're redoing a whole cell. Obviously, every once in a while we have to expand the landfill until we can figure out a way to not make garbage anymore. And my understanding is that is happening, and it's going to be it's being done on budget and on time as well. But that work continues too. And I was just up there a little while ago touring it. It's these cells are massive. When people most people actually don't go to the landfill to with their garbage. They have a hauler come and do it. But if you haven't been there, it's quite a fascinating process to see how large it is. But the big project that's happening this year is the development of that new cell that we're putting in up there.
And about how much is that costing?
I don't have that number offhand, but it's definitely like $5 or $6 million at least. But but that is all paid through the charges that all the tipping fees charges that we charge for trash to be put there. It doesn't actually come out of the general fund. It's one of the what we call enterprise funds. It's all paid for by user fees.
So are tipping fees going up to help pay for the work that's being done?
Nope, tipping fees are staying the same. It's something that the Deb Smith, who runs the whole landfill, does an amazing job up there, and we make multi-year projections as to when we have to close down a cell because it's full, and then when we have to open them and build a new one. And so we knew this years ago that the cell was going to be completed, have to be built out and completed, and factored those costs into year over year.
And when will this new cell be operational?
I'm not sure. I can get back to you on that. Like I said, there's just a ton of construction projects going on, but my understanding is that it's on time. And the cells are very the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation is they're very specific on how these cells have to be built and the environmental standards that have to be used with them. So once we get the final cell constructed, the DEC comes in and does inspections, and then they give the final green light to allow us to start operating that cell. But my understanding is that it's on schedule.
With this cell, do you recall about how much additional time that would buy the county to keep the landfill operating based on the projections? Is this expected to be adequate for another 10 years? Or?
It's a good question because I think this is the second cell that I've done in since I've been county executive. Maybe we have to build one every 5 or 6 years. That sounds correct.
I'm old enough to remember when there were some dire predictions that the landfill would ultimately really run out of space and the county wasn't going to be able to expand it. Were those projections wrong, or am I recalling incorrectly?
Well, we have. I mean, this is the second. I mean, just since I've been county executive, this is the second cell that we've done. So we obviously are able to expand it. If you remember, we used to have, I think, a landfill out in Colesville, if I'm correct. There used to be a landfill out there, and then we moved out to up past the airport, some time ago. But no, I mean, it's one of the other reasons why we have one of the best recycling programs in the state is because the more you can recycle and use those yellow bins and divert the recycling waste from the landfill stream, that allows us more time to work with the cells and less time less we have to construct as the years go on. So keep recycling, and that's less money that we have to spend on building out new cells for the landfill.
We'll continue our conversation with Broome County Executive Jason Garner in a moment. This is Binghamton Now. We're live and local on your Wednesday morning on WNBF. Continuing our chat with Broome County Executive Jason Garner. The IBM Endicott demolition, I know you've been following with some interest the eventual demolition of the old building group along North Street in Endicott. Still hasn't started, though. What are you hearing?
So the village got a state grant of $6 million. The county has $2 million of ARPA funding allocated to that project. The money is there to do it. We're waiting for SHPO to give us the green light. Now, I will tell you that the owners of the campus, SHPO had sent a letter probably about a month ago and said, this is after the owners had said, okay, we're going to demolish these buildings. And SHPO's response was, are there any ways that you can repurpose these buildings or anything like that? And probably a couple weeks ago, the owner sent back a letter and said, no, these buildings are too far gone. They've been condemned. They've been sitting there empty for 20 years. It would take an infinite amount of money to repurpose something like that. The best thing to do is demolish the area, get it shovel ready and ready to go for new construction. My understanding is SHPO has 30 days to respond. So if they sent the letter, let's say a couple weeks ago, I would say at any point we're going to see whether SHPO is going to allow them to move forward with the demolition or not. I suspect that they will. It's pretty clear. I mean, it's a pretty black and white issue that, these buildings are in such terrible shape. They need to come down in order to make that whole site shovel ready and allow for further development. So I think we're probably going to see in the next week or two where we're going to go from here. And of course, my hope is that they say they agree to it and they bless the demolition and we can move forward with that project.
Well, it would seem to me, since Governor Hochul approves millions of dollars for the demolition, which seemed to me that Kathy Hochul or somebody on her staff could send a memo or make a quick call to SHPO and say, yeah, we actually have examined the situation there in Endicott. That's why we approved advancing several $1 million to help with the process of tearing down the buildings that haven't been used in such a long time. So it's time to move forward. Do you think that's feasible?
Yes, and I can tell you that the governor is incredibly supportive of this project. I mean, I've talked to the governor personally myself about how important that site is and how important that project is to happen. Some agencies are, unbelievably, believe it or not under the direct control of the executive. Certainly the governor is extremely supportive of this. With the Restore New York grant, she put in her budget, we wouldn't be able to do this. So, I think at the end of the day, I think that this will happen. My hope is that it happens sooner rather than later. The quicker these buildings can come down, the quicker that the owners can work to develop the site. Because they can't do it with all those buildings there right now.
So you're saying bottom line is, as far as you know, Kathy Hochul can't do a whole lot. Call somebody at SHPO and say, move it forward.
Right?
The agency is independent of her?
Yeah, just like I can't, right? I put money into the project, but I can't order something to happen. There's a process. There's rules that you have to follow, right? That have been set up by code or by law. There's a process that has to happen, and that's what's happening right now. But I can tell you that the having personally spoken to the governor about this, that she is supportive and not just verbally. They've made. They've awarded Endicott this Restore New York grant to get these buildings down, and along with our money, the project will happen. So I'm confident that'll happen. I just wish it would have happened a couple of months ago, but we've been waiting for decades for something to happen here. I'm sure we can wait a couple more weeks.
Another thing that seems to have been put on hold, and I spoke a few days ago about this with Stacy Duncan from the agency, is the planned apartment complex, the 75-unit complex that I think everybody figured would be well under construction or even maybe nearing completion by now at the old IBM Country Club site on Watson Boulevard in the town of Union. Yeah,
so there is a highly competitive pot of money that the state makes available for these projects. Couple of months ago, you heard an announcement that Broome County was one of only, in the southern tier, was the only county to get any of these projects funded. We actually got two funded. One of the projects was in Johnson City at 333 Grand Avenue, the Regan project. The other one was up in Enwell. But this project had put an application in for that same pot of funding. They did not get funded in this round. And what happens sometimes is that you have to go through multiple rounds. The two projects that I spoke of before, both did not get funded the first time. And it was only on that second time that they applied for funding again that they got funded. And again, there's only so many of these dollars available across the state. We were lucky to get two of them, but sometimes you have to apply two, sometimes even three times to get it. My hope is that they, go ahead, apply, and they can get it. this next round because that's an important project.
Although Stacey Duncan indicated that perhaps if Conifer Realty does not go forward, and it's her impression that they will, but say
Right.
if Conifer and LaChase don't go forward with the plan that's been announced, that effectively the county could be back to square one and trying to figure out a way to redevelop that site.
Well, yes and no. I mean, listen, I hope that they put their second application in. I think it's a good application, and I think they get awarded the second time around. Housing agencies, they only have so much capital that they can work with, and sometimes that changes, right? So we'll see what happens. But I don't necessarily think we're going to be back to square one. Square one would be having a huge dilapidated building out there on the site. I mean, the county and the town of Union worked together to demolish that building and make that site shovel ready. I think there's a lot of opportunities for utilizing that site, and Conifer does have until the end of the year. They can put in, their application again in to get this funding and get this project done. If they don't, I think there's a lot of other opportunities there. I think there's a lot of other opportunities, whether it's housing or other types of development that could happen there. But the most important thing was getting that building down so we can make those opportunities available.
It's 10:53 at WNBF. We're speaking with the Broome County Executive, Jason Garner. Well, when you were on the program in early June, you brought us news about what the county is suggesting should be done with the Enjoy Golf Course that's now owned by the Village of Endicott, operated by the county. Has there been any movement since June 6th when you talked about this publicly for the first time on this program?
There really hasn't been any movement. What I understand Endicott's going to do is they're going to wait until the study comes out and to see, how much it's going to cost. We're estimating that the full replacement of the irrigation system is going to be right around $5 to $6 million. But my understanding is that they're not going to make any, commitment or anything like that to fix the infrastructure until they see that. I also understand that they were looking at other companies to come in and do their own assessment. I think that would be, they can spend any money they want. I think it would be kind of a waste of taxpayer money to have two different companies doing the same type of assessment on that project. It's costing us I think about $80,000 to do that study. I think $80,000 is a lot of money for Endicott taxpayers to pay if Broome County is already doing that. So I guess we'll see, but I just don't think they're going to make any type of commitment either way. Our thing is, listen, we're willing to take the whole expense on, but we can't do it without owning the course. And if they can certainly pay for it themselves. But I don't know if Endicott has, $5 or $6 million just laying around. And I don't think the residents of Endicott want to be taxed another $5 or $6 million. We just had a wonderful tournament. It was great for our local economy. Great concert. Tens of thousands of people there. It's a great thing to have in this community, and the course is a great thing to have for the community as well. And all we're simply interested in doing is making sure that it's maintained to the standard that people have come to expect. But to directly answer your question, I don't think there's going to be any movement on Endicott's side until they see some sort of study, and whether that's our study or a study that they want to pay extra for, I'm not entirely sure.
There's been some concern expressed that if the county's plan is not implemented, that the Dick's Sporting Goods Open could be moved outside Broome County. That would no longer be in Endicott.
Well, it's got to be maintained to PGA standards. And right now, listen, sometimes the system doesn't even work. And when I was out there, I don't know if any other Endicott officials were out there the last day of the tournament, one of the things that the course superintendent told me the week before is he's like, this will be brown, even though it's raining. This course by the end of the tournament, there will be a lot of brown areas around it, and there was, and that's not something you want to see on a PGA Championship course. The grounds crew does an amazing job with what they have right now. They don't have much of anything because it's breaking down. 70 years old, just like anything that's 70 years old, it breaks down and doesn't work very well. So that's why we don't want to wait, right? You don't want to wait for something that's broken and then you ruin the whole thing. You want to kind of get ahead of things and fix things or replace things before they break down. Whether those are cars, your health, golf courses, like anything in life, you want to do that stuff before it stops working. So that's all we're trying to do here. I know it's kind of been contentious, but we're just really trying to keep this tournament here, keep this golf course running really well, and that's it.
Broome County Executive Jason Garner, thanks for answering a few questions. Still a lot of topics I didn't get to, but you'll be back.
We will be back. Absolutely.
All right. Thanks. Enjoy your holiday weekend.
You too, Bob. Take care. Have a good 4th of July, Broome County.
Thank you. It's 10:58 at WNBF. Joined now by Paul Van Savage in our studio. Wow. Must be time for Speedy Fest.
It is Speedy Fest.
Hold on.
You're right, Bob.
I didn't have your mic all the way up. I'm new here. So Speedy Fest is just around the corner. And, of course, our listeners, our astute, long-time loyal listeners know that you're probably going to be talking about cooking Speedies in the big contest.
Indeed. The Speedy Fest contest, which is what started it all 41 years ago, celebrating the 40th anniversary this year. It's an incredible run, and it's a tribute to both the organizing team that has kept it alive, including and especially Dave Pisagno, and the community. If the community didn't come out and support it, it'd go away. And the contest has survived all of these years. In fact, a couple of years ago, Rick Dodd, who was a longtime judge, like for 30, 35 years, decided that it was time to breathe a bit of new life into the contest. So he and his wife, Sylvana, took it upon themselves to reorganize it. So we've got great prizes, we've got more excitement, and more things like T-shirts and aprons with the old original logo on it that Johnny Hart did back in 1983. And probably the most exciting thing this year is a new category that targets 18 and under kids. We've had a couple of youngsters that did very well. In fact, they both placed in the past. And so we're encouraging anybody in that age group to come on out. And we have a special prize for them. We call it the Founders Award, $100 in cash for the winner of that category. Plus, they then compete in all of the other categories for the big prize.
I like the concept of basically encouraging the speedy experts of tomorrow. So keeping the tradition and expanding the tradition that we've had for so many decades here in Broome County. I think it's a great concept.
One of the neat prizes that we have had for the last couple of years and will do again is a belt. If you picture a wrestler's belt, the big ostentatious gold-plated belt, well, that goes to the winner with the Speedy Fest logo emblazoned on it. And this year, the main prize otherwise for the grand champion will be an Uni outdoor pizza grill. We've done other similar grand prizes in the last couple of years, and I think this one is special. It doesn't cook Speedies, but it'll cook a really good pizza outside.
Well, you can also make a Speedy pizza. You can
there you go.
You pizza and then take your pick, whether you're going to put lamb Speedies or pork Speedies or chicken Speedies or even tofu speedies. There, I said it.
You said it.
you can adapt it that way, and that will be your first pizza with the outdoor pizza oven.
I think that's a great idea. So, Bob, what is your favorite type of speedy?
I am a traditionalist. Lamb.
Me too.
Has always been my go-to. It's become more challenging these days because, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there any entity, any restaurant or whatever in Broome County currently that is offering a lamb speedy on a regular basis?
That's a good question. Right off the top of my head, I don't think of one.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Lupo's when they were operating on State Street did on a regular basis.
West State Street. And then I believe it was January of last year. And I remember having to report that story. And it was one of those, it's a tough story to talk about the decision. And actually the final time I was in the place and doing a walk around video and thinking, well, the era of me calling, and typically maybe once a week or so, typically call, say at 12:15, and all I would say, I'd like a lamb speedy, and then he'd say, 10 minutes, Bob. It got to be. It was sort of that simple.
Yeah.
And so it's and a lot of times I'll talk on the air or elsewhere, and people say, "But Bob, you can always get lamb speedy meat from various places." And I say, "Yes, you can, but it's not the same. I mean, it's great in summer, but what if you are working, for example, after an excellent radio program and suddenly feel a need for a lamb speedy? That's not going to help you. I can't set up a hibachi outside the station here. Although probably Jared Cram would say, okay, you can do it. They really don't want you to be doing that. But in your case, Bob, since you're cooking lamb speedies for the masses, that's okay.
Well, this would be a throwback to the early days of speedies, and mostly in the north side of Endicott, where outside of the local bar would be some elderly Italian gentleman cooking speedies on a hibachi and selling them.
Those were the days. Yeah. Let's talk about as far as registration for the Speedy Cooking Contest. I take it people can register now, looking ahead to the big day, which is just about a month away, on the August 4th.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple process. If someone goes to the SpeedyFest.com site, there's a tab for the contest. They click on that. The registration form will take about 2 minutes to fill out. Name, contact information, and what kind of speedy they're going to cook. We now have 4 categories: a lamb, of course, pork, chicken, and then a category we call non-traditional, which would be maybe elk, beef, alligator, tofu, whatever. And
I have a couple. It won't be this year, but one of these years I'll come up with something that'll go in the non-traditional category, and I'm debating what it'll be. I won't tell anyone yet, but I've narrowed it down to 3 possibilities. And by the way, depending which one I choose, it could be national news. So
this is scary.
yes, it'll. Some people will be amused and others not so much. But don't worry, I'm not going to do that in 2024. That's part of my long range plan.
Okay, we'll be waiting for it.
Yeah.
So. The registration process is simple. We've got, I think, 13 contestants already signed up, looking for more. We'd like to get to, like, in the 2025, maybe even 30, where we want to keep it manageable. And we also do a blind taste test so that some of the judges know some of the contestants because they've been around for a long time. And so to prevent any familiarity influencing the judges, it's blind tasting. And it takes a little while to sort through it, but it works.
Sounds like fun. It's always fun.
It always.
It's great to have this tradition continuing. and it'll be here before you know it.
Indeed.
Early August. Paul Van Savage, thanks for joining us in the studio.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Enjoy your holiday weekend.
Thank you.
It's 11:19 at News Radio WNBF. 607-772-1290 is the number. If you'd like to talk on the air, I'm here till noon. Give me a call. 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. Back to the phones. Tom in Susquehanna. You're on the air.
Okay, Bobby. Hey, Bob, if you didn't give out disinformation, you wouldn't give out any information. Is that right?
Absolutely wrong.
Oh, no.
You're totally wrong.
Well, how am I wrong? And then you tell me how I'm wrong, and then I'll tell you how you're wrong, all right?
Every bit of information I provide is 100% accurate to the best of my knowledge.
All right, I'll give you one. Just from today. Today you said that Trump was above the law. That's not what the decision said. He's not above the law.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you want another one?
Sure.
Okay. You also would say that Trump said to put bleach in your veins to fight COVID. That was not, he never said that. I heard what he had said, and he said it would be too bad if we couldn't have something that you could just wash it out. Now, I could go on all day long. So there. That was two examples of disinformation. Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, I always appreciate your thoughts.
Yeah. So what are you going to say?
Thanks for calling.
Oh, okay. Listen, have a good 4th, all right?
You too, Tom. I might stop in. I can't stop in tomorrow because I'm busy, but one of these days I'm going to pop in when you least expect it.
Oh, hey, I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
And you know where I live. Come on down.
All right. Enjoy. Hey, enjoy your weekend.
You too, Bobby.
Thank you. 11:24 at WNBF. Beverly from the town of Dickinson. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. I have a question for you. Hello?
Hello, this is Bob. You're on the air, Beverly. You have to turn down your radio, though.
Alexa, slow down. I was informed that a gentleman who was I had a disability, that he had and what they call an emotional dog on a bus, which is it helps people you know that have seizures and so forth, and the bus driver told him he had to get off the bus and take his dog.
Well, I don't know if that's allowed. I think emotional support animals are supposed to be allowed. I don't know the official rules, but just my gut feeling is if somebody has an emotional support animal and it's legitimate, that's that they are supposed to be allowed to be on public transportation.
Well, I don't know. I got a phone call from this lady that knows me, and she said that her brother-in-law has and what they call an emotional service dog, and the bus driver told him that he had to get off the bus with the dog and he says, but sir, it's a service dog. He said he didn't care whether if it was a service dog or not, that he wanted him off the bus. So the guy got off the bus and he didn't know what to do. So he went to the library in Johnson City and asked if they could please call the police, but she didn't say whether if they came or not. And I just wondered if it's. He said that it's only for blind people. That's it.
Well, I think that might be true because according to the Federal Transit Administration website, it appears that emotional support animals don't have to be allowed. It's up to transit entities. Now, I don't know what the Broome County rules are. I would have to look that up, but looks like, say, for people who use a dog because they're blind, that those dogs must be allowed on buses. But as far as emotional support animals, it appears that every transit agency can make up its own mind according to the federal law.
The lady that gave me a call, she says he says that her husband has seizures. When he lets the man has a seizure, the dog is supposed to comfort him. So anyway, she was real upset. Her husband went into the library in Johnson City and asked her if they could help him, but the lady didn't say whether if the police come or not. She didn't say whether he did or not.
Well, I don't know. This is, let's see, the under service animals. This is the portion for BC Transit. In compliance with the ADA, service animals are allowed on buses. They must be under control by the person with disabilities at all time and must not occupy a seat and must either sit on the floor or on the person's lap. BC Transit staff reserve the right to ask what service the animal performs. In addition, we have a right to ask the owner to remove the service animal from the bus if, 1, the animal is out of control and the animal's owner does not take effective action to control it, or 2, poses a direct threat to the health or safety of others. So it doesn't say anything, at least that I see on the website, about emotional support animals. It says service animals. So I don't know how this is supposed to be handled by BC Transit, but it's something that anybody who has an emotional support animal really needs to contact the BC Transit office to find out what the guidelines are.
That's what I told her.
Right.
I gave her the phone number.
And by the way, this applies to anything, whether it's public transportation or a public space. There are specific requirements under federal law, the Americans with Disabilities Act, that will apply in many cases. But if you have any doubt, you should check in advance so you don't wind up in a situation where there are misunderstandings that might be avoided.
Yeah, well, I told her that she should call the Broome Transit, but she said that her husband is afraid, and I said, well, why be afraid? I said you have a legal question.
Right. There's nothing to fear about asking questions. But again, whether it's for buses or anything else, if you have a situation where you have any doubt about what the rules or guidelines are, try to check it out first to avoid a scene that might be preventable. If you assume that something is going to be allowed, and it turns out that because of the rules that are in effect, whether it's for BC Transit or some other operation, that they're not allowed. Remember, a lot of times when it comes to rules that are being enforced, the person who, whether it's a bus driver or someone else, that person didn't come up with the rules. That person is only trying to follow the guidelines as he or she understands them. Okay?
Yeah, well, you can't be afraid of people.
Well, don't be afraid. But the other thing is, as much as possible, try to avoid a confrontation. They do have, I see on the website, there's a complaint process, ADA complaint process at the bottom of the website. The Broome County website, the transit section says if a passenger has an ADA complaint regarding an incident that occurred with BC Transit staff or while using one of our services, they may file a written complaint. And it tells how you can do that, including calling the BC Transit Administration office, or you can go to BC Transit's junction office in downtown Binghamton, or at the administrative office in Vestal. So there is a process, and there's actually a person. Her name is listed on the website, and she's the person who should be contacted to get this matter cleared up.
No, you can't be afraid of people, like I said before.
In my opinion, in virtually all circumstances, people are trying to do the best they can.
Yeah, that's true.
All right.
Okay. Well, if she happens to call my hotline. Well, I'll tell her. But
okay.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Have a nice holiday and a safe holiday. I'm staying home.
All right. That's probably a good thing. Thanks, Beverly. It's 11:33. Bob Joseph on your side at WNBF. With the most calls in America, let's squeeze in a whole bunch of calls before we wrap it up for today. DJ in Binghamton, good morning.
Good morning. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Hey, I wanted to say, enjoy your family, your friends. Thank God for our police, our fire, all that, this Independence Day. Because I'll tell you what happened where the Twin Towers are in Times Square was a federal hall. And that's where George Washington was sworn in as president. And then the towers, we know what happened with that, 9/11 in 2001. So that's a sign of judgment. Now, he's not abandoning us completely, but it's a warning sign. So we need to pray and be ready and vigilant and enjoy what we have, the protection. It's for those who, this holiday is to celebrate. People don't, Bob, do you ever wonder when someone's scarfing down their hot dog, if they even think about the person who put their life on the line for them?
No, usually they're thinking about the factory and wondering why the FDA cut back on its, or USDA cut back on its inspection service. Yeah, anyway, I agree with you. Everybody should enjoy the holiday. Thanks, DJ. Randy from the town of Dickinson, you're on the air.
Shalom, Bob. How are you today?
I am well. What's on your mind?
With Independence Day tomorrow, I think I'd like to give my fellow Americans something to think about over the holidays. And I've got a question that the next debate with Donald Trump, and you're moderating it, you could ask him this question. What would he have done? What would have been his next move if his rebellion and he had succeeded in overturning the election? What would have been his next move, do you think? Would he consolidate power? I mean, would he punish his foes? Say Mike Trump was hanged and some congressmen were beat up or killed. And what do you think would have been his next move? Say there was an uproar in the country, people were rioting and protesting, and there was violence. What would he have done? Would he have the army back him up? If the army would back him up? Like I said, what's your next move? What's your, essentially, you've changed the dynamic of our government. You've refused to uphold the Constitution. Law and order is off the table. So what's your next move?
Excellent question. And if I'm the moderator at the next debate that Trump is in with whoever the Democratic nominee turns out to be, I will ask that as the first question.
And also, you could follow up and ask him why he thinks his attempt to overturn the election wasn't successful. That'd be another follow-up question.
Excellent questions. You have good questions, the best questions. Thank you. I hope you have a great holiday.
Likewise, Bob. Bye.
11:40. Those are the best questions, and they really ought to be asked to that former guy. Dave from Binghamton, you're on the air.
Good morning, Bob. Two quick things. One, I was looking at the blueprints to the airport remodel, and it looks like there's no car rental desk. There's a thing that says rental, but that could be anything. But anyway, so that's the one quick thing that I thought was interesting when, in my ongoing reviews of stuff. But the other thing I was calling in regard to the service animals, so there's a big difference between service animals and emotional support animals. And the reason why I don't say service dog is because service animals could also be miniature horses and stuff. But service animals are trained for a specific task for anyone that needs that task to be given assistance to. It's not only for blind people. It's for anyone that needs it. They could have seizures. They could have diabetes and need to be notified if they need to take certain medications. There's a lot of different things that service animals are used for. And any place of public accommodation, including buses, they're allowed on, no matter what. Like the bus driver has no say, and a service animal is not going to act out. They're trained, they are even trained to have other aggressive dogs try to, attack or do whatever, but they're trained to do their job and stay with the person needing that assistance. So emotional support animals are not allowed just anywhere. If someone is, they're not protected by the ADA or anything else like that.
Well,
so
that's my point, though. For people, if you have an emotional support animal, call ahead. Whether you want to use a bus or go to a specific place, if you have an emotional support animal and you're going to use a service or go to a place you haven't been before, call ahead to avoid any kind of confrontation or confusion.
Yeah, and exactly. And people need to also know there's only two questions that people can ask in regard to service animals. Is that a service animal? And what service does that provide? You cannot ask, what's wrong with you? It's just what services that provide. And that's where it's important. People need to understand that you can't get into the nitty-gritty of everything. And there's no certificates. There's no true legal vests that they have to, they don't have to wear a vest. They don't have to have any paperwork. It's just what is that a service animal and what does it provide?
If people want more information, go to the Federal Transit Administration website. It explains it pretty well.
Yeah, and not just for transit stuff; it's for stores.
Right. Well, I mean, you can go to all sorts of websites and find out what the law requires and what the law allows, whether it's any kind of service provider or people who have accommodations or retail spaces. That's how you find out what the law is. Go online or if you want, use your attorney. She'll explain it to you.
Or you can contact STIC or other organizations like that.
That's right. The Southern Tier Independence Center would have accurate information. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
11:43. This is the place that gives you the information in real time. Nobody else seems to be able to do it. Jesse in Owego, you're on.
Hey, Bob, today is the day. It's the only day that you can order a fifth at the liquor store on the 3rd to celebrate the 4th.
There you go. But celebrate responsibly. If you're going to be using illegal fireworks, make sure they don't blow up in your hand.
Nah, I have enough trouble with my electric oven, so I don't need fireworks.
All right. Well, don't do anything rash.
Yeah. I got a little nervous on your non-traditional speedy meat. I know what one of them is, but I don't even say it on there.
No. N-O. N-O.
I'll be nice, and you have a great July 4th. Bob.
Okay, thanks, Jesse. It's 11:44. Now the phones are just lighting up. It's like the 4th of July. It's like the 4th of July, 12 hours and 15 minutes early. Look at those phones. Hi, you're on the air. Good morning. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Bob from Boston.
Yeah, what's going on?
I don't go anywhere without my teddy bear.
Okay. Well,
I can't believe you people.
Hey.
Emotional. Oh my God.
Be nice. Show the.
I am being nice.
Show your nice side on the radio.
I do. I try to, but I don't know. People drive me nuts. Anyway, Martin seems like a nice guy. He's gone to concerts I've gone 2 years ago and stuff. But he called yesterday, and I have to correct him. Donald Trump is not locking anybody up when he wins the presidency. When he won last time, he could have went after Hillary Clinton. He said that is not good for the country, and he let her slide on all those crimes she did. So please, people, don't spread those rumors.
Hey, man, he's the future guy, man.
Yeah, I hate that other guy. You know how I hate that. But yeah, the guy's a nice guy, and you people paint him as a devil. I don't understand that. If somebody's sick, he calls them.
Yeah.
If they got cancer, and,
If their homes have been wrecked by a hurricane, he tosses out a 22 cent roll of paper towels.
Oh, aren't you funny, Bob?
Yeah. All right. Have a good 4th. Laughter is the best medicine. It's 11:46. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Hi, what's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, Carol from JC.
Sorry, I'm having trouble containing myself. What's on your mind?
Well, I don't know how many minutes I have, but
you have
I
1
wasn't
minute.
able to-
Yeah, I'm giving you 60 seconds. Use it wisely.
Oh no, it's got to be more than that.
No, I'm giving you. No, we have calls just flooding in. 60 seconds. Go.
Okay. A certain person that calls at the end of the program was talking about the adulterous affairs of Trump. Well, does anybody know that Biden used to take showers with his daughter, and it was in her diary that was stolen from her? And if you look up Ashley on the internet...
Oh, please. This isn't that kind of program. If you want to talk about that, you call Bongino.
This is Carol. Just let me say what I have.
No. If you're going to talk about that, no. N-O. If you want to talk about baseball or something that's appropriate, that's totally inappropriate on this program.
Where were you when the Bo Sox were in town?
At the game. I was at the game, and where were you?
I was there, but I didn't sit in my usual seat.
I know you weren't in your usual seat because I saw your usual seat, and you weren't in your assigned seat, Carol.
I had 4 people, my daughter, son-in-law, and 2 grandchildren, and we sat up right in front of Jacob Wilkins, the announcer.
Oh, okay. Well, I looked up there. I mean, I did glance up there, and I didn't notice you, but anyway, I looked.
3 rows right in front. And let me say, can I make a comment about a priest that said something in church?
No. I don't want to hear what the priest said in church. That was for those who were worshiping. The priest did not want what he was saying to be broadcast on the air.
Okay, one more thing. You know how Democrats are against they are for gun control. Does anybody remember, and I brought this up to you over a year ago, doesn't anybody remember when Biden, I heard it on the news, his own voice, there was no AI at the time, and it was him yelling, there was some crime going on about break-ins, and maybe it followed Pelosi's husband's whatever disastrous situation, and he said, you go on your back deck or your back balcony, you take that gun and you just shoot it at him. Do you find that? I heard it on your station.
All right, well, good. I'm not going to play that. That's just wrong. I don't want to hear that kind of stuff. People talking about shooting someone. Sheesh. Hi, good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Bob, this is Rich from the beautiful town of Tioga.
Yeah, what's going on in the town of Tioga?
I've got your ticket. I've solved the world's problem. You are going to be the guy. It's going to be Banana Republic Bob for president. Monkey Matt, vice president.
All right. I don't mind if you say something about me. You don't say that kind of stuff about other fine listeners. I got to draw the line somewhere, Rich.
Come on, dude.
Come on, man. If you want to talk about issues, okay. Never disparage another listener.
Oh, okay, Matt Ryan.
Hey, don't. This is your final warning. If you want the call to continue, you better move it in some other direction, because I'm not gonna facilitate that kind of conversation. If you want to talk about what we need from Joe Biden, what do we need from Joe Biden during this interview? Is he going to be able to salvage his candidacy?
No, there's no salvaging it.
Even if he performs well. I mean, after all, George Stephanopoulos is one of those better known, albeit shorter, journalists.
Yeah, I don't see any of those guys being able to step up at this point.
Well, what about Kamala Harris? If Joe Biden decides to step aside, who knows? Maybe he'll resign. He could resign tomorrow, you know. There's no law that prevents him from announcing that he's going to resign from the presidency effective at noon tomorrow, and then Kamala Harris could become president.
The family's too invested. He's not going anyplace.
Are you sure? You're right. Dr. Jill doesn't want to give up the glory, and certainly Hunter Biden still gets free laptops as long as his dad is president. So, yeah, I can see why they advised him to hang tough and stay around. But I think most other people at the White House realize it's a losing cause at this point.
I think you could run for president and still run your show, too.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because there is an FCC rule about people who have talk shows. I would actually, funny you should mention, it wasn't related to running for president, but I did look up the rules from the FCC about people who have talk shows and what happens to them if they declare that they're running for office. And it's interesting. The rules are very interesting.
Wow. They're not going to hurt you anything, are they?
Well, it's a crazy thing, because occasionally it does happen. For example, in New Jersey, at a Town Square media station, one of our better known stations, there's a morning host, believe it or not, who's planning to run for office. So I would say it's not without precedent within the Town Square media family that some talk show hosts decide they're going to run for office.
Right.
So if, in all seriousness, obviously I can't run for president because, well, I'm too old, but I could run for some other office. Could I run for Town of Tioga supervisor if I moved to the town of Tioga?
Wow. Don't go to Candor, Bob.
Well, unfortunately, yeah, and I feel badly because, and I've never talked with the mayor of Candor, who I understand has resigned because of the allegations, but I really felt badly yesterday because I don't want to call people under less than optimal circumstances, and certainly when the news came out about the allegations regarding the mayor, as a journalist, I felt compelled to at least provide an opportunity if he wanted to say something. So I wound up calling up, and he didn't want to come to the phone, understandably, but I was very apologetic to the person who answered the phone, because I really, although it was appropriate as a reporter to make that call, it's the type of call I really, really don't like to make.
Well, if you're lucky at all, Bob, I'll bring back my mother's lamb speedy recipe, and I'll make a treat for you one day.
All right.
I can still make it. That's what we grew up on, lamb speedy.
Yeah. Yep. Lamb speedies all the way.
It's the only way to go.
Yeah. Hey, thank you. I hope you have a great holiday.
You too, man. See ya.
Thanks. As we look forward to celebrating the independence of the United States of America. Oh, I love this country. And by the way, since I have a moment here, it was amazing how the lines were all on the verge of melting down. And amazingly, the phone company was able to accommodate the influx, the volume today. I don't know what they did, but maybe they added a little moxie to their switching system. But anyway, the line seemed to work pretty well today. So while I have a moment, as we prepare to celebrate the 4th of July, I just want to thank you for listening and thank you for calling. I appreciate it. I really appreciate it. I don't say it enough. I could never say it enough. I do feel honored and privileged to be in this role as hosting a talk show in the city where I was born, and also having the privilege to report on the things that go on around here. So I always do my best. I know some people won't find my best to be acceptable, but I still try to make it an interesting program and try to report the news for you. I'm Bob Joseph. You're listening to WNBF.
Stepping up